Shares of Disney are up 8% in pre-market trading. They're set to open at a record in the regular session. This is after the company gave an update last night. It talked a lot about Disney Plus. It wants the attention to be on Disney Plus, and it looks like that is working. Subscribers, 86.4 million now. That's up from 73 million at the end of last quarter. Of course, the service is still losing money, and Disney still has a lot of other issues to deal with, including weak theme park attendance because of COVID, of course, as well as not really many movie theater releases. Dan Roberts covers the company for us. And Miles likes to have the discussion about investors focusing on the quite long term, which it seems like they are in the case of Disney.
Well, it's interesting, Julie. In this 4.5 hour presentation, there was a lot about Disney Plus, but then at the very end, rewarding us, I guess, who stayed tuned, we got the hard financial numbers. And it was interesting. CFO Christine McCarthy came on. She said that they expect Disney Plus losses to peak in 2021. So, the service is going to cost them even more next year than it did this year, but then become less and less of a loser. And by 2024, achieve profitability, which is interesting because they're going to be ramping up the number of original shows and movies each year until then. So you would think it would continue to get more expensive. But of course, they're also raising the price by $1 to $8 a month. But Bob Iger came on at the very end and said that their aim is to put 100 new things on Disney Plus every year. Now, in terms of spending, by 2024, they're going to be spending about $10 billion on original content on Disney Plus. Overall, across their 3 streaming platforms, they'll be spending as much as $16 billion. So, you talk about the long term, it's not that far away, 2024. And by then, their spending on original content will be very close to Netflix's. So it's really a kitchen sink approach.
Now, they also had some news on ESPN, which is a part of Disney's business that I feel like Disney tries to hide in some ways because there's a lot of concerning trends with respect to how many households have cable, but a pretty sizable overhaul when you look at some of the relationships that they have with some of the leagues that they cover. I mean, the SEC news is very, very big news that 5 years ago would have been the absolute headline were it not for, all the Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah, the SEC deal is huge, taking over the SEC contract from CBS. That's another thing that won't take place until 2024, but it's right around the corner. And Miles, it's interesting what you say about trying to sort of not talk about ESPN. I think a few years ago, that narrative peaked of, maybe Disney will just, unload it since cable subscribers are going down. I think this makes it clear that Disney believes in ESPN, likes owning it, likes being in sports. There's a connection, a relationship between ABC and ESPN. Both of those will show some of the SEC network games. SEC network, of course, also owned by ESPN. So I think taking over that expensive deal shows that, ESPN is not about to, go anywhere. It's part of the Disney portfolio. There was also a lot of talk about new shows that are coming exclusively to ESPN Plus, a number of new documentary series. They're going to put a Stephen A. Smith studio show on ESPN Plus. He's kind of, one of the biggest faces of ESPN. They've renewed Peyton's Places, which is the Peyton Manning show. And they also shared that platform now has 11.5 million subscribers. I mean, we're talking about 137 million streaming subscribers across the 3 platforms, guys. It is remarkable considering that ESPN Plus and Disney Plus didn't exist 2 years ago. Both of those launched in the last 2 years. So I'm with you, Julie, in the sense that right now the streaming is sort of look over here at this instead of the fact that Disneyland in California is totally closed. Disney World is operating at reduced capacity. Some of our other parks are closed, like the one in Paris. Shanghai operating at reduced capacity, cruises aren't operating, retail stores aren't open, but look over here, it's streaming. That's true. But DTC is now the top priority at this company. So increasingly, I think it's not a side note that they're using to distract, it's the main event.
One of the open questions for me is, you talk about all this original programming. But how original is it really? Because it's still in the ecosystem, right? I mean, how many Star Wars spin-offs can one company make when it comes to TV and movies and all the rest? You look over at a Netflix, there is genuinely original programming there. Some of it's not good, but there's a lot to choose from that is actually original and different. And so I wonder if at some point that becomes a bigger issue for Disney.
Well, it's an interesting debate, Julie. Honestly, I see the point, but I also think you underestimate the fandom of those universes. I mean, I'm not as big a Star Wars guy as I am on Marvel, but Star Wars stuff alone could probably merit its own streaming service. And I think there are many, many, many people who would pay for it. I mentioned that the presentation yesterday was an exhausting 4.5 hours. Every 2 minutes, they revealed another project, and you're thinking, how can anyone watch all this stuff? I mean, then of course they saved the Marvel stuff till the end, because I think that is kind of the primo, most popular stuff. And the sheer volume of Marvel shows coming to Disney Plus, and I'm a Marvel fan, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to pick and choose. I'm not going to watch that. I'm not going to watch that because there's too much of it. So I think you could criticize and say it's too much, but Netflix, which you mentioned, is doing a kitchen sink approach. So I think yesterday proves that Disney has decided that it needs to do a kitchen sink approach. Yes, all the stuff comes from its own franchises, but those are, incredibly lucrative franchises. So honestly, I think Disney Plus, even if it only had Marvel and Star Wars stuff, but it also has Pixar, Disney animation, Disney live action, could probably be a big success.
Fair enough. I'm more excited for Wonder Woman 1984 than I am for the next Marvel installment, I have to admit. All right. Thank you so much, Dan Roberts. Appreciate it for tracking Disney for us.